All right, and welcome into the BettingPros College Football Show. Today, we recover from the weekend by making another lap around the nation to give you our Week 6 early picks and line movement predictions. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock. I had a huge weekend of NASCAR betting and NFL betting. However, there is still work to be done on the college football side of things. And to help me with that, I'm joined by a man who is living and dying with his Diamondbacks right now as they vie for a spot in the MLB postseason. He's got to be sick after what happened here with a couple of our plays in week number 5 of the season. He also has a sick head of lettuce, and we'll share some sick analysis for you today as well. Give it up for Scott, big time Bogman. Scott, how you doing today, man?
Hey, my calls of Alabama hit. At least it didn't make me really nervous at the end, for God's sake. Good Lord, what a game. That was incredible. Oklahoma, analysis wrong. Call correct. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, so we will take it.
Absolutely. On the show outline for today, we will be doing a quick reaction to the movement in the rankings and the fallout from week 5. We had one major upset and a few near misses as well. We'll also give you an early handicap with our favorite 12 games for week number 6. And shout out to everyone who makes this part of their weekly mix. While the sport of college football continues to grow, it's still a very cool niche with some really, really loyal fans out there. So today, I want to know who you're rooting for. Who are the teams that you're following? Let us know below in the comments. I'm a Penn State fan, of course, and Boggs, he bleeds that burnt orange. And before we jump in, I wanted to remind you, if you want a chance to win a signed Kyren Williams Los Angeles Rams jersey for free, courtesy of our friends over at pristineauction.com, all you gotta do is subscribe to the BettingPros YouTube channel right now and drop a comment below on any of our videos. That's it. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when new videos are coming up and so you can claim your prize if you do, in fact, win. And let's look at week 5 here in Bogman. Week 5, it was an absolutely wild one. Kentucky, they upset number 6 Ole Miss 20-17. The Rebels fall now to number 11 in the rankings as a result. Alabama is now number 1 in the rankings after beating Georgia 41-34 in one of the best all-time college football games. And top 10 teams, including Miami and Penn State, survived tight games at home. What stood out to you here in week number 5, Boggs?
I mean, Ole Miss absolutely not showing up against Kentucky. And it's so crazy. I'm telling you, that Kentucky game against South Carolina was one of the worst I've ever seen a team play. And, for them to stand tough against Georgia and then beat Ole Miss is pretty awesome. And they're definitely on the right track now. Ole Miss, and this is kind of the deal when you play all these scrubs and beat them by 70 points and all that stuff. That's not really, as our boy Mike Tomlin would say, that's not iron sharpening iron, right? Yeah. That is warm-ups. You're going through the motions there, and they just did not come to play, and Kentucky just beat them. I mean, that game was the most surprising, but obviously one of the best college football games maybe ever between Georgia and Alabama. I mean, we thought that was over at halftime, and then Georgia comes roaring back and says, hey, we're not going to get stomped by anybody, takes the lead, and then Ryan Williams with the unbelievable play to put Bama back up. Then they got the stops. So just what a weekend, man. It was crazy.
Absolutely. And before we jump into this week's game, I want to play a quick game with you, Bogman. Should I cash out my Travis Hunter Heisman ticket? I want to keep doing this every week until I eventually cash out because I think I should. I went in 0.2 of a unit at 65-1 back in July. He is now plus 750, and I'm being offered 1.25 units, 6 times my investment. Jalen Milroe is the favorite right now, plus 210. I kind of spoke about that last week while I didn't want to get invested in that Alabama Georgia game. I was interested in maybe taking a shot on Milroe to be the Heisman. He's now plus 210. Should I be looking to cash out? You think this Travis Hunter Heisman ticket, you think we're at the end here?
You know what I want to do? I want to look at Colorado's schedule coming up here before I say one way or the other, because I think they're on a bye this week, right? So Colorado, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. So I would cash out after Tech. That's what I would do. Because, I mean, Kansas State's a tough game, but if they're in that, I think Travis Hunter is still going to be pretty high up there. I think they can beat Arizona, even though Arizona just beat Utah. That was another upset this week. Very strange one. Cincinnati, they're going to beat them. They're going to beat Texas Tech, I think. So maybe before that Utah game, when they get potentially stomped into the ground, and then they got Kansas and Oklahoma State the next week. But we'll see. I mean, Utah didn't show up against Arizona. These are still kids we're dealing with. So sometimes, they're not going to show up and have some bad games, or young men, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
But, I think I would wait a little bit because I think your odds are going to get better because I think the mindset that I hear on shows and articles and everything that I see is that, I mean, how is Travis Hunter not the most outstanding player in the country? He plays both ways. He had a touchdown and a pick this week, right? So, I mean, he is the best player, but then you get into the politics of they're not contending for much, all of that stuff. Can you put a guy like that in there? I think you can. I think he's the best player in the country. So I would wait. I want a little more.
Okay. All right. Let us know in the comments right now. Should I keep hanging on to this Travis Hunter Heisman ticket? Love to hear from all of you as well. And let's go ahead and jump into the game starting on Friday night, where at 9 p.m. Eastern time, the number 6 Oregon Ducks will be laying 23.5 points on Michigan State at home. Oregon 1-3 against the spread after beating UCLA 34-13 last week on the road. Michigan State continues to have a very middling season here. They failed to cover again here in week number 5 against Ohio State, losing 38-7. Michigan State is now also 3-1 to the under and 4-0 to the points total in this game, 52.5 to the under as well. Oregon 2-2 to the under. These Friday nights games have been extremely tricky, Boggs. We saw Virginia Tech make it a game against Miami this past Friday. The week before, Illinois, they beat Nebraska as well. So I'm going to bet early. I'm probably not going to bet this one. What say you, and where do you expect this line to move, my friend?
Yeah, I think the way the tickets were and cash were last night, where they were on the Michigan State side, and as I'm double-checking this second right now, I believe they are big on the Michigan State side.
Wow.
So I think this is going to come down. I think a lot of this is exactly what you said, Seth. We saw Virginia Tech scare Miami, and a lot of people think that was more than a scare. They think maybe Virginia Tech should have won the game with that call at the end. We didn't even talk about that crazy game.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like you said. How can we count on either one of these teams? Neither one of these teams is very good against the spread this year. We've seen Oregon have these big lines and not cover them. We've seen Michigan State have big lines against them and not cover them. For me, I think that Michigan State is pretty bad. I don't think they're a very good team. Aiden Childs is developing. This is a tall task to go on the road on short rest in Oregon. And Oregon's had some scares already. So my gut says lean towards Oregon in this game and lay the points. But if all this money is going to come in on Michigan State, let's wait. Let's wait and see what this gets down to and how low it goes, and then take Oregon. So I'm gonna wait and see how much this line shifts one way or the other before I take it. If it opens up towards Oregon, not touching. But cash and tickets right now are all on Michigan State, so this line could dip a little bit. So I would wait in the holding pattern and see which way it goes.
Okay, some patience there from Bogman. And keep in mind, DraftKings, they have been offering about a 50% boost on Friday nights if you wait until then to get invested. They keep getting me in with those, and I keep taking the boosted odds and not coming out a winner, but hopefully we can change that here on Friday. Moving to the Saturday slate, we head to the city that Scotty Scheffler was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky, where the Cardinals try to respond to their 31-24 defeat to Notre Dame. They're playing SMU here this week. The Ville, though, is 4-0 against the spread and 3-1 to the over this season. They're laying 6.5 points on the SMU Mustangs here. And we last spoke about this SMU team heading into week 0, where the season started pretty shaky to them. They barely got by Nevada there. They then lost to BYU as big favorites, which doesn't look like a bad beat now. But they have since responded with huge wins against both TCU and Florida State at home. Bogman, I think I want to get invested with the Cardinals. QB Tyler Shuck here and company. They played very well in South Bend despite losing that game. But this is a big one in the ACC standings, and the spread has dropped from 11 to 6.5. So some mixed signals we're getting here. Do you think the spread continues to shrink as the week continues?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do think this one is. Maybe it's going to be difficult to move because it is closer to 50-50. We're slightly shaded towards Louisville right now. So SMU, it's exactly what you said, man. It was like, man, they were, lost week 1, not impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, just made the change at quarterback, and you had all this experience coming in. You thought maybe this is a team that can fight for the ACC. Doesn't look like that now, but still a very, very solid team. So, like you said, this line has dropped. Louisville made big mistakes against Notre Dame. I think they're a much better team than how they played against Notre Dame, and I think they're a much better team than SMU. So I'm with you. I think I want to get invested in Louisville here over SMU, but this game is going to be a little bit tighter than we expected 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, the opening line being at 11.5 was definitely too big. But I think if it's going to stick at less than a touchdown, a full 7 points, I think I like Louisville.
Okay. All right, I do as well. Let's shift to College Station now, where Texas A&M are actually favored against the 9th-ranked and undefeated Missouri Tigers. Missouri has been fortunate so far this season. They did fail to cover in their last 2. They went into overtime against Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, and then they beat Boston College by just 6 3 weeks ago. They have had a bye week to figure some things out here, but Texas A&M continues to win since losing in week 1 to Notre Dame here. That includes this past week, where they did beat Arkansas in Jerry World. However, they are still just 1-4 against the spread. If I can get Mizzou as the dog in this, I feel like I have to go right now. I feel like maybe we could see the favorite flipping in this one. What say you, Bogman?
Yeah, I do think I'm on the Missouri side here, specifically coming off that bye week, 2 weeks to prep for this team. And this is a tough game to play on the road, though. Kyle Field at Texas A&M and College Station, that
they get up.
That is, it's your number one most hard place to play on the road in NCAA, right? For a reason. It's the 12th man. The Seahawks have to rent the 12th man moniker from Texas A&M because they started it. So, the crowd is going to be a big difference here, but I'm with you. I think Missouri has had a couple scares. I think we see a refocused team, a veteran team going on the road here against A&M. A&M, good wins, have looked much, much better since that bad loss to Notre Dame at home to start the season. I just don't, how do they slow down Missouri's offense? And then if they can't, how do they catch up? That's really the big thing. So if Missouri puts up points here, I don't think A&M is in a position offensively to come back and compete in this game. Maybe my thought process is going to be incorrect here, and maybe the Texas A&M defense is really good and they stymie Missouri, but not from what I've seen. I'm gonna take Missouri, and if you're giving me a point, I'll take the point right now.
Do you think we should get in right now then? Do you think this maybe flips by the time we get to game time on Saturday?
97% of the cash is on Missouri. So
really?
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna move.
Okay, all right. I think I'll probably be getting invested right after the show then. And before we continue, I did want to remind you to join our college football podcast group. You can sync your picks and use our quick pick feature on the BettingPros sports betting app and get a chance to win free prizes. You can elevate your betting strategy and join the conversation today at bettingpros.com/college. On to the 3:30 slate that is going to be dominated by the SEC here. Georgia, they'll try to avenge their loss to Alabama by whacking the Tide's in-state rival Auburn. No line movement so far, which I was a little surprised to see. The Bulldogs were initially favored by 23.5. They are still favored by 23.5 despite the loss to Alabama. The Bulldogs are also now just 1-3 against the spread this season, 1-3 to the under as well, but they did show a ton of grit, a ton of determination to get themselves back in the game on Saturday. But Bogman, you correctly faded the Auburn Tigers last week. They lost to Oklahoma 27-21. They are now 1-4 against the spread and 2-3 to the over. Peyton Thorne did look a little bit better last week, but is that enough to stop Georgia here from covering? Georgia's covered against Auburn for the last 5 games. The under is hit for the last 5 games in this matchup as well. Where's this line heading, and do you think we hop on a side of the total right now?
Yeah, I think right now the line is going to head towards Auburn because you saw Georgia play in a close game, and right now, at least the numbers that I'm looking at, most of the cash, almost all of it, is on Auburn's side. This is a lot of points here, and I understand that. I think I want Georgia in this game, but I want to wait to see how far this line comes back towards Auburn. So this is another, let's wait. Let's recheck in this game on Wednesday and see what the line is, see if it has moved down enough, and if that cash is still flowing towards Auburn. And like I said, I think my analysis was incorrect on Oklahoma and Auburn because Auburn was able to move the ball on Oklahoma. I thought Oklahoma's defense was going to play much better. They were able to hit those deep shots, which we saw Alabama hitting against Georgia. The difference to me is, I don't think that you're only going to have one turnover from the Auburn Tigers in this game like you did against Oklahoma. I think Georgia is one of the better defenses in the country. Hopefully they come in a little bit more healthy. They had a lot of guys questionable. We'll see, in a tough physical game against Bama, how many of those guys are going to end up being on that midweek injury report and, remaining questionable or however it goes. So right now I kind of want to wait and see where this line shifts. But I don't want to take Auburn at any point. Their quarterbacks have been turnover heavy in this, and that's what caused them to lose. So my take was right. They did turn the ball over, and Oklahoma won because of that pick six, but I didn't think Auburn was going to put up 400 yards on them. So the offense looks better for Auburn against Oklahoma, though, when Oklahoma didn't have much on offense. So Georgia is not the same way. They really unlocked their offense in that second half against Alabama. If they can do it against Alabama, you can do it against anybody. So I think I want the Bulldogs here, but I do want to see how much lower this line shifts towards the Tigers.
Do you like the total at all? Would you prefer the over based on seeing the improved offense from Auburn last week, or do you like the trends that tell us to bet the under in this SEC clash?
I'm not a big trends guy, but I think I'm on the under in this game. I don't really like it. I think this is going to be a one-sided game. So I think Georgia puts up the points and then leans on a lead. So I like the under in this game.
Okay, I do as well. Let's move to Columbia, South Carolina, where the 12th ranked Rebels try to respond against the Gamecocks here. Ole Miss's early season schedule kind of caught up with them last week against Kentucky. Penalties and the inability to get off the field really hurt this team. And now we don't really know what's going to happen on the other side of the ball with Lenora Sellers. It felt like if he didn't get hurt against LSU, there's a good chance the Gamecocks are undefeated here. However, they are still 3-1 against the spread and 3-1 against the Rebels in their past 4 games. That does date all the way back to 2008. However, though, with no words on Sellers' availability currently, can we get invested on any side of the ball here?
No, I want to see. You're right. And Rocket Sanders also hurt in the last game as well. So we're waiting on word for those guys. But, yeah, I'm not investing in this until we hear a little bit more. Like you said, I did not expect Ole Miss to lose to Kentucky, but Kentucky bowed up, and they're good defense, obviously, much better than they played against South Carolina.
Yeah.
I do like South Carolina at home. I'm going to stay away until we hear what's going on with this quarterback, because if Sellers is out, I don't know how you can take Ole Miss, South Carolina, but Ole Miss showed us they were not ready for SEC play last week. Is that going to be a bump in the road, or is that going to be? Is it going to now be a bumpy road? Is the question here. I think it's probably a bump in the road, and Ole Miss gets back on track because I do think they're a playoff team, at least a playoff caliber team. I don't know if they're going to get there, but South Carolina bows up. They're tough, man. So I really want to see what's going on with Sellers first before I do anything in this game.
Yep, check back in with us on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have some updated injury reports to share with you then. Rounding out the 3:30 slate here, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes laying 20.5 points on Iowa at home. This has been an awesome Ohio State offense. We talk about it every single week on the show. However, Ohio State is still just 2-2 against the spread this season. Iowa, meanwhile, they left us hanging in the Cy-Hawk, but they're still 3-1 against the spread this season. Actually 3-1 to the over this season as well. Pretty surprising for an Iowa team. Still, these teams have played just once over the past 5 years despite being in the Big Ten together. The Buckeyes won that matchup 54-10. Do you have an early lean here, Bogman? Because I'm somewhat perplexed. The lack of history that the former Big Ten divisions caused kind of make me not want to get invested a ton with this one right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Buckeye side here. This is a lot of points, right? But I do think that Iowa's a little bit too one-dimensional to hang. I think that's the thing is, I don't think this passing game gets going at all. It's going to be really tough to run against Ohio State. And I think that this offense is going to have enough. We've seen Iowa get beat by some big plays. Like you said, they're playing more to the over this year. I got the under on a hook, but that was because I took that line early in the week in that game against I think that was the Cyhawk game, if I'm not mistaken. But, so to me, I think Ohio State's the better team here. The money right now is coming in on Iowa, so this can slip a little bit. So another game where I kind of want to lay the points, but it's got to get to the right level. I think that's about, if it gets closer to 18.5, 17.5, somewhere in that range, that's where I like it better on the Ohio State side. So this line is a little bit big right now, but like I said, the offense has put them in bad spots against Ohio State. In that big game, they had 6 turnovers in that huge game. And I just do not trust Cade McNamara. You see Ohio State get, a 2-score lead, and they have to play from behind a little bit. They're going to start putting the ball in harm's way. So I just think Iowa's too one-dimensional. I think Ohio State is one of the better teams. Yes, they haven't played anybody, but you can look at Ole Miss and learn from their mistakes and go, okay, we can't do this again like they did. Let's show up. And Iowa's not a team you get to sleepwalk against either. So because they will Kentucky you, just like Ole Miss did if you sleepwalk against them. So I think Ryan Day is going to have those guys ready to play. So give me Ohio State here.
Okay, and yeah, I think I'm with you that I am going to be waiting if I do want to get invested with Ohio State, because the spread was 24.5 when it opened up last week on the look ahead, so it has shrunk. Let's hope it continues to shrink and we can get invested with the Buckeyes there. Let's go ahead and crack open this loaded primetime slate and move to Tallahassee, where Florida State fans have been very, very quiet on the internet as of late after opening up the season 1-4 straight up and 0-5 against the spread. DJU did get banged up in this last game. He hit the pine, but Mike Norvell said he was, quote, going to make a change anyways. Brock Glenn saw a little bit of action there at the end of that game. However, it was 0 for 4 passing the ball. They're now 14.5-point dogs against Clemson. The Tigers started the season slow against Georgia, but they have covered in 3 straight games against pretty decent teams: Stanford, NC State, and App State. Cade Klubnik also starting to kind of lead this offense a little bit. I feel like they're starting to get the wheels under them. They're now top 30 in total offense, and Klubnik himself, 25-1 to win the Heisman as well. So is it time to get back reinvested with Clemson here? Do we think now is the time to go, or should there maybe be a better number we might see later in the week?
Yeah, I think that I don't know how you trust anything from Florida State. Like if we thought DJU was the best option at quarterback this entire time, they're 126 in points per game. There's 134 teams, and Florida State, one of the premier programs in the country, is 126, averaging 15.2 points per game. They're 125th in time of possession, and they're gonna hang with Clemson? I don't think so. I think Clemson comes in here and stomps. And I hate that I'm on all these favorites this week, right? Like these are big lines that we have, so I don't necessarily like taking all of them. But I just think Clemson is so much better than this team, and this is one of the reverse of what we've been talking about. You need to get in on it early if you want Clemson, because all of the cash is coming in towards them right now. So. I think Clemson, maybe we see a hiccup. I mean, we did see Stanford run against them a little bit last week, so that was interesting. This is not the cleanest Clemson team we've ever seen, right? This is not a national title contender, I don't think. But I do think they're very good, and I think Florida State is miserable right now. Maybe a change at quarterback will do that team wonders. I don't know how it didn't happen earlier than this when they're averaging 15.2 points per game. That's pathetic. So, I'm on Clemson right now. Get it early if you want Clemson, though, because I think this line's going to open up a lot.
Okay. Meanwhile, in Ames, Iowa, the 16th-ranked Cyclones look poised to make a run at the Big 12 championship game after a 4-0 start and 3-1 against the spread record. Rocco Beck, not only does he have a pretty cool name, also pretty good at spinning the football as well. 9 total touchdowns for him, just 2 interceptions. And while Baylor is 2-3, they've had a pretty tough schedule to open up here. They lost to Colorado in overtime just a couple weeks ago, and then BYU by just 1 score this past week as well. Quarterback Sawyer Robertson has looked much better than DeQuan Finn did, who started the season under center. These teams play every single year, and it's gone back and forth with the teams splitting wins since 2020. Both teams are 2-2 against the spread in those games, but the total has gone to the over 3 of 4 of those games. Baylor kind of feels like they could be sneaky here a little bit. Bogman, do you feel the same, that there might be some value on the Bears, or could there be maybe more value later in the week, perhaps?
You must be reading my notes here, Seth, because I said this game feels trappy.
Okay.
It feels very, very trappy. Baylor hasn't passed any test that has been put in front of them, as you mentioned. Lost to Utah, they couldn't score. Colorado, they couldn't hold a lead. And then BYU, they couldn't get a stop. So, but in this game, Iowa State's defense has been just so unbelievably dominant. Their offense has been okay. You know, they've been sputtering a little bit. I like the under in this game. It's a low total of 45.5 right now. I'm not really. Let me just double check, because my numbers last night said that we didn't have numbers. We didn't have percentages, on this total. So let me just look and see where this one is right now. It's heading towards the over. The cash is slightly towards the over. The tickets are way towards the over in this game. Sawyer Robertson is going to start in this game over DeQuan Finn. I just saw that announced like right before we started recording the show. So I really like what Iowa State's defenses look like. I think they're the best unit in this game. I think Baylor is kind of waiting for the knife to drop. So on their coach here. So I think this team is kind of ready to give up. I think Iowa State is a hard-nosed team playing at home. So the line I don't love. Like I said, it feels like everything in my gut says lay the points. Yeah. I don't know, though. Take the under. That's what I like here. I like the under.
Okay.
I think this game is going to be slow-moving, slow-paced, and I think Iowa State's defense controls it.
Okay. Meanwhile, we have a Big Ten matchup in Minneapolis as the 11th-ranked USC Trojans head to town after an early scare to Wisconsin last week. USC is favored by 8.5 here, but they're 3-1 against the spread, and they have kind of plagued themselves with turnovers, with penalties, kind of just sloppy ball overall, but they are still 29th in total offense, 32nd in total defense. This is still a good club. Meanwhile, Minnesota actually 5th in total defense, and they're also 3-1 against the spread. They're getting a ton of production out of their running backs, especially Darius Taylor, who has over 250 rushing yards and 150 receiving yards as well. This is USC's first night game on the road in the Big Ten. Is this a sneaky spot for Minnesota to potentially cover, or could we maybe see a better number later in the week for the Gophers?
I think it is, but you're not going to get a better number right now.
Okay.
I don't know, because tickets are on USC. They're a popular school, right? People want to bet them. They're fun to watch. But almost all the cash is on the Gophers. So,
really? Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those weird tickets are up in the 70%, but over 90% of the cash is on the other team.
Okay.
So that's, public perception. USC is a good school, and they good team right now. And, they I think that the thing here is USC's offense versus Minnesota's defense. Can Minnesota hold them, right? We know Michigan one-dimensional, very, very one-dimensional. So stop the run. Michigan made a couple mistakes. Minnesota comes back. I can't figure Michigan out to save my life this year. I bet against them, they win. I bet for them, they don't cover. That's just like what Michigan is this year to me. That was Notre Dame for me last season. So it just seems to be the way it's going. USC also having to run through this physical B1G schedule is going to be interesting as these games start to pile up. They played LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin last 2 weeks. They get Minnesota this week, then Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, and Washington right before the bye. So this schedule is piling up for USC right now. I think my gut says Minnesota at home, take the points. And I think you need to take it now if you want Minnesota. If you want USC, I think you can wait a little bit and see what this line goes towards. But I think right now the line is going to come back down towards Minnesota with all the cash coming in on their side.
Okay. In Fayetteville, Arkansas, we get the Razorbacks as 13.5-point dogs against 4th-ranked Tennessee here. It was a strong start to the season for Arkansas. However, they did lose last week to A&M 21-17 in Jerry's World. And they've kind of been a bit inconsistent now overall on the spread and the total. Hard to kind of get invested with the Razorbacks there. Meanwhile, Tennessee, perfect 4-0 against the spread, 3-1 to the over as well. The question here is not will Tennessee win this game, but can they cover the 13.5-point spread? They last played Arkansas in 2020 where the Hogs won 24-13, Boggs.
Has Tennessee played a good offense yet?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. That is a loaded question, my friend.
Because that's when this game, I think it leaps off the page of Tennessee coming off a bye. Come on, let's go with Tennessee here. What are we thinking? This is not enough points, right? But then you start to really break down, look at the schedule, and maybe Ole Miss and some of these upsets, Kentucky playing, Georgia tough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe those are in my head a little bit, but I'm like, is NC State good? I don't know. I think they're kind of middling. Is Oklahoma? Yeah. Oklahoma's offense is bad. I don't think
right.
That's not a question right now. So I don't think we have an Ole Miss Kentucky. But Tennessee doesn't have like a really great win. I think Arkansas is going to be the best team that they played against. Oklahoma is probably a better roster overall and a better team overall, but they had the wrong quarterback, obviously, for most of that game. So Arkansas doesn't have the wrong quarterback, but they did just come off a physical game against A&M. They lost that game too. And I think Tennessee's way better than A&M. So I don't know. I'm wishy-washy in this game as it stands right now. I think I want to lay the points and take Tennessee. That's what my gut is howling at me. But after seeing some of these upsets, after seeing some of these close games, Arkansas's at home, I don't love it. So I think right now I'm going to stay away. Let's see what Terrell has to say. Maybe it's a little more confidence on Wednesday here. But
okay.
I just, and I've seen Arkansas beat Texas before. Like, I know this team goes up and plays well. Pittman's a good coach. Sometimes he's a bad coach. Other times, like, I don't know. There's too much wishy-washiness in for me right now and in just Arkansas's overall performances. So I think Tennessee's a dominant team. Everything in my brain says Tennessee wins this by 25, but I don't know. This feels weird. So I'm going to stay away for now.
Okay, let's head to the shores of Lake Washington, where the Huskies are an eye-popping 2.5-point favorite against Michigan. Michigan, they originally 9.5-point favorites on the look-ahead line, but they took their foot off the gas against Minnesota. They failed to cover that one. They're now 1-4 against the spread this season. Alex Orji threw 18 times last week, 86 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So a somewhat better stat line for the new starting quarterback for the Wolverines here. And it does look like Khalil Mullings did take over the starting running back role from Donovan Edwards as well. He had another 24 rushes for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground on Saturday. Still, does Washington really deserve to be favored in this matchup here? They lost to Rutgers 21-18 on Friday night. They moved to 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the spread, and 0-5 to the over this season. This is a rematch of the national title game from last season. We know very different teams, different head coaches as well. Michigan won that game 34-13. Boggs, I know we got absolutely burned by Michigan at the altar last week, but do we now hammer the spread or the plus 130 money line while it's still available? I feel like I got to get back in.
Yeah, give me Michigan in this game. And listen, my gut feeling about Michigan has been wrong every time. So if you want to fade me, I completely understand that, right?
Agreed.
Has not been good, but I'm with you, Seth. Like, I don't understand why Washington is favored in this game. Anytime they've had a test, they have failed. They failed against Washington State in the Apple Cup. They didn't win that game. They put up almost 500 yards and couldn't put the ball in the end zone against Rutgers. So that game was on the road across the country. Weird, whatever, right? But Rutgers won. Rutgers beat them. So I don't think that gets better against Michigan, even at home. So
agreed.
I like Michigan here. I also like the under in this game at 40.5 right now. So I think I like the under a little bit more than I like a side, mainly because my take on Michigan has been so terrible this year. But this is a head scratcher when you look at it, Seth. Like you said, What do they know that we don't? Maybe they know that Alex Orji is miserable and this offense is very, very one-sided, but I don't know, man. Michigan is going to out-physical most teams. They had Minnesota wrapped up till those big mistakes in the fourth, those big chunk plays in the fourth quarter, and the most amazing touchdown catch you've ever seen, too, by the way. Kind of lucky a little bit there. So for me, I'm going to take the Wolverines here, and I like the under as well.
Would you hit the money line, or are you just taking the points here with Michigan, you think?
No, I would take the money line. I do think Michigan wins straight up.
Okay, let's go ahead and round out the program with the host of College Game Day, Berkeley, California, where the 3-1 Golden Bears host the undefeated and 8th-ranked Miami Hurricanes. Miami had 3 turnovers on Friday night against Vatech. Barely got out with their lives alive. And can they beat Cal here by nearly 2 touchdowns? I think that's the question we all want to know here, Bogman. It's kind of been an up and down season for Cal so far. They went to Auburn in week 2. They won that one as 9-point underdogs, and now they have lost outright since in Tallahassee to this Florida State team that we've been taking shots at all season. The last time we saw them in week 4. However, they are still 23rd in total defense. This feels like a really tough game to handicap, as Cal is 4-0 to the under and Miami is 4-0-1 to the over. Do you have an early lead here? What do you expect from this game in general, and where do you think this line shifts to?
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where you look at it and you go, all of this adds up towards Cal. But it is the Miami scare that we just saw enough to go, all right, like, we saw their scare. We're going to see them come in refocus because this is going across the country, right? You're playing at 11:30 local time, right? Isn't this a 9:30 p.m. kickoff or whatever? Or is it 9:30 Eastern?
10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
10:30. Okay, so 10:30 Eastern. That's a late kick for the Hurricanes here. So, you see those things and you go, okay, maybe this is too much for Miami. They did not come out to play against Virginia Tech either, but I think that scare actually helps Miami here. This should be a refocused Miami team. I just don't think Cal has enough on offense to keep up with Miami here. I think Miami is still a national title contender team, team that should make the playoff, a team that can win the ACC. So Vatech, maybe they got hosed last week, but they came to play. They bowed up. They played great. Vatech played like the team that we thought they were all off season.
Right.
Finally,
Trail called it.
Finally, once he did. He was completely correct about that. So I was not. I got my first quarter somehow, even though they turned that ball over so fast and they jumped out. My first quarter call was -6.5 on my show on Friday. I like that halftime one. Virginia Tech was up at halftime.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Miami is a frustrating team right now for what happened last week with all the money I bet on them, but I think I'm just gonna roll it again, and I think I'm gonna take the Canes again. The money is pretty split here, so I don't know how much movement we're gonna get at least early this week. Maybe one side, one side will open up more this week, but right now it seems pretty stable.
Well, I don't have a take on this game. I will say the odds of me staying up till the end of this one, slim, my friend.
I'm a night owl anyway, so I'm up. I'll be watching it.
I used to be, and I feel like as I've aged, I've slowly become my father who falls asleep on the couch with a beer sitting next to me. So
that's funny. I'm a night owl. I stay up late. I wake up late. That's
okay.
How I work it.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in with us as well. Thank you guys so much for watching today. That will do it for us on the BettingPros College Football Show. We'll be back later in the week with Terrell and our picks and prediction show. Until then, like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the BettingPros YouTube channel and podcast feed. Plus, download the BettingPros app and sync your sportsbooks today. For Scott Bogman, I am Seth Woolcock. Thanks for watching. Take care, y'all.